All right, welcome back to another episode with the Chevallero. This time we're getting into some heavy metals. We're finally getting on the chassis of it. For me, this is the fun part, and so we worked on everything else I had no idea about first, and now it's time to work on the underneath. So you can see I've cut the floors out here just to get a better look at what's going and I knew the perimeter frame was toast, so I wasn't really throwing for a loop or anything. This is all pretty straightforward. In fact, what I'm trying to do is now think about the inner structure and what's going on, so I have a place to put the tanks and I don't build where I want to put something in the future. So, but the perimeter frame has to go there. And let me show you what's going on. Let me step down on the axle here. So the old perimeter frame, you can see in the photos, was totally rotten, and in fact it had ate up the side of the aluminum because there was on the bottom of these foam walls there was a steel cap that wrapped around the foam, and then it was bolted through the perimeter frame, and I guess with the galvanic reaction it rotted the aluminum and it rotted the steel out, and it all just started to disappear to the point where the floors were falling because there's no more floor supports. In fact, you can see what's going on here. This is a great example actually. So you've got the old 2x4 frame support, you've got the foam, you can see the erosion on the aluminum, and then you've got these floor supports which came up for the cross section of the floor, and the foam and the wood and the aluminum on the bottom. And these two supports are kind of in place, but obviously there's nothing left underneath there. So that's what we've been replacing. So in fact, I'll show you the piece I'm about to do, and that's this side here. So this is where the old generator sat, and this was obviously where the gas tank sits, but you can see there's no frame rail left in there whatsoever. And in fact, it's so bad that this is the seat mount for the driver's side, the angle iron which held the floor up. I can wiggle that around pretty easily. So yeah, so I think I'm going to time lapse removing the gas tank and cutting that out, cleaning it up, getting it prepped, and then yeah, welding the whole new piece in. That's a 10-foot piece of 2x4 1/8 wall square tubing I'll be replacing it with, and putting a lip on the bottom, putting the plastic sheet in there to act as a barrier, and a plastic sheet on the bottom. So let's time lapse this piece in, and then I have no idea what we're going to find under that side, but hopefully another good gas tank. Let's get it done. Can you guys hear that music? Let me walk outside here. You hear that? That's my neighbor having a party. I'm on 10 acres here. I might as well be at his party right now. That's pretty loud. Hopefully YouTube won't pick up on that music. Think of it as background music today. Alright, so before we get into this, I need to remove the gas tank, right? I'm thinking it's still savable. I don't want to cut these straps off. But you know, looking at this, it's going to be a pain. But you can't go right to the torch. You got to try the wrenches first just to see. You know I'm going to end up using the hot wrench to heat that up, to unscrew it. But if I try the wrench on it, there's no way it's going to come off. So, but you have to. You just have to start here. So, might as well just start here. So it is 11/16. Oh, maybe it is actually going to come off. Come on, baby. Come on. Well, maybe this won't be so bad. Well, those came all right. Too bad the bottom side of it was busted. Oh well. I'll just make new straps as well. I just need these T-bolts. Let's get this thing out of here. Well, the gas tank's out. It's actually still full of gas. But this is kind of interesting. There's a vent tube. I guess because the line is so long, you can see there's an actual plastic line in there which goes all the way up to the top, I guess, for a vent. Never seen that before, and this one's kind of short. But whew. Well, I guess if it's full of liquid, excuse me, I guess if it's full of liquid, it means there's no holes in it. and there's a drain on it, which is nice. So maybe I can get these things re-lined. Or maybe I'll just make some stainless boxes and go with that. Anyway, let's see if I can get this thing without spilling anything. All right, funny story time. Now that the gas tank's out. So you had a guy working for me, his name was I had him drain the fuel out of the back of a 54 Chevy once upon a time. And just so we could pull the tank out. When I bring cars in the shop, I don't like to have the fuel tanks in them, right? I'm just doing lots of grinding, welding, whatever. Just remove the gas tank, don't have to worry about it. Anyway, before we started working the car, I had the car outside. Oh, do you mind taking the gas tank out of the car? So he drains the fuel. And he's got it in one of those triangle oil pans used for draining oil. Anyway, so I think he takes a rag, he dips the rag in the gas, and he wants to know if it'll ignite, because the gas is old, right? So anyway, he takes the rag, ignites it, drops it, because of course it goes up, he drops it into the triangle bucket of gas, which is right behind the back bumper of the car. And yeah, so anyway, we got the fire out. Didn't let him do that anymore. But anyway, this reminds me of that, because this is the fuel tank we just took out of the coach there, and it's over half. So when I had it tipped up, it was actually pouring fuel on me. So I'm not going to try to see if it ignites, but it definitely smells like bad gas. Whoa, that stinks. And this is really, you can see that. Let me get some of this out. Look at that. That's the inside of the gas tank. So as much as I want to save these tanks, maybe they're not savable. I'll drain it out anyway, see how bad it is. And I don't like lining the tanks if I can help it. Like, honestly, this thing's pretty square. I could probably make one out of stainless easier and cheaper than it would be to fix this. So yeah, anyway, TBD. All right, so here's a really good example of what's left of the shelf. You can see where there used to be a piece of steel that went up here, and then yeah, just eroded between the aluminum and the steel there. But that's what's left of the shelf that holds the foam up underneath. And there's obviously our new attachment point. I'll clean this up, cut this edge off, and then clean it up so we have a new mounting surface, and then get that plastic in there between the wall and the foam, and between the steel, and that'll stop any more corrosion or anything else from happening in there. Protect the steel more or less, I guess. Yeah. God, what a mess. Oh, check out how much that wall moves. Whoa. Good thing those rivets are holding us in there. Whoa, the whole thing. Awesome. All right, let's get this thing up there. Secure it as fast as we can. Guess I gotta take these. So these bolts go to the trim on the outside. See that fiberglass piece there? That's the screw across the bottom. So I think that's next. Let's go on the outside and peel that off. Well, it looks like we got a clover plant growing out of the trim on the side here. Well, I don't see any 4-leaf clovers. Oh well. See you later. All right, let's remove the trim. All right, so now that the side trim is off, you can see that support rail that holds the foam in place, and this is right toast as well. Interesting to see here the Bondo or whatever they used to hold that on there. Also, you can see what's left of that original wood wrap that was on there. You can imagine this whole thing was covered in wood trim. I thought this thing was originally blue, but it turns out it was like burgundy and wood trim. Pretty gross 70s stuff. See all these little pustules on here? These are full of water. Let's see if I can find one to rip open here. Oh, there's a soft one. All right, so under here should be water and full of aluminum rust. There we go. Ew. It's like breaking zits or something. So underneath all this is that white aluminum rust. It's just been rotting the sides of this thing out, so gotta get all this stuff off for sure. Gross. There it is. Yeah. Satisfying. Anyway, I'm gonna use this and scrape this whole sidewall down. All right, well, this is curious. This is the 2x4 piece of steel that I'll be using for the new perimeter frame, the 1/8 wall stuff. I painted this 2 days ago, and since then it's just been sitting in the sun, but it's just baked it. It's like, look, that's the bottom part that was on the downside on the bench, but the rest of it was just, I don't know, exposed to daylight or something. Like, why is it so washed out and turned gray? No idea. Now, I guess it's still painted, so although faded, it's not gonna matter a whole lot. It's not gonna rust or anything. I'm just gonna stick it up inside the frame here. So the next step would be to bring out some blocks and some screw jacks, lift that up into place, make sure it's level with the bottom of the foam, I guess, but the frame's more important, I think. Level it off with the frame, and then start ticky-tacking her in place, I guess. Yeah. All right, let's go do that. All right, now that that part's in, let's go cut some plastic. These plastic sheets are not like a polycarbonate, they're much more flexible. Picture like a cutting board, or maybe like a side of a hockey rink. Something that takes a lot of abuse, but it won't chip or break. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like it's uber flexible. And I think this is really good. I was able to find these on Marketplace, 4x8 sheets. So I've just been, this case, I'm trimming them out to 9.5 inches, and then just scoring and breaking them. Alright, so now that that is in, it fits nicely right between the aluminum and this cross member, now that I've cut 1/8 off of this flange here. So that's up tight. You can mount this in and rivet this panel to the aluminum like on the rear ones. So I think we can pop some rivets in there. And right now the bottom side of this is flush with the lower half. At least I think it is. Yeah, it is. So on the bottom here, I'll end up making a lip from here that goes across to hold up the edge of the foam, and also put a line of plastic on it as well. See that? See how this, you can see the foam is hanging out on the other side there. I might actually just slice that off, put a new edge on it. It doesn't really mean anything, and that way I can still have the top edge of this 4-inch flush and then put a lip across the bottom. I like the symmetry of that as opposed to staggering that down, that extra 1/2 inch that's on the bottom there. And then it has a nice clean edge, because as you saw on the outside, the aluminum was not looking all that super duper. So yeah, like, who cares if there's an extra 1/2 inch missing here? It won't affect where the trim bolts through. And worst case, I could just move that up or lower it down a little bit. Doesn't really mean anything. So yeah, let's leave that up there, cut an extra 1/2 inch off the bottom here, put a plastic plate on the bottom of that metal and a lip, and then that is done. Let's get riveting. So that panel is now in. So now I think I'm going to drop this metal bar back out, weld the lip to the bottom side of it, and then reinstall it. All right, so now the ledge that'll hold up the foam is welded to the 2x4. Interesting enough, you can see, remember I said this is faded, but where the heat is around the weld, it reanimated or brought it back to that black paint. I wonder if I could just take a blowtorch and heat it up in the same way they do, the way they restore plastics, you know? Either way, so now on this ledge, let me flip it over. So on this ledge down here, I'll end up putting another piece of plastic, and that's why I drilled the holes there, just to hold the plastic in place so I don't have to worry about gluing it. Just use some stainless screws and poke that up through there, and that will, the foam will sit on this ledge. There'll be another piece of plastic here, so the foam walls and the aluminum are completely isolated against the steel side impact beam. Well, I guess that's it. It's time to weld. It's all lined up. I got it where I want, front and back. I trimmed the foam out of the bottom, the old crusty, moldy, wet, dampish, crumbly foam off the bottom, just to move it up another 1/2 inch there. And the level is, where the foam is perfectly level, the outside of that 1/8 plate and that plastic, and I got it clamped in place. I got one more clamp here, and then I can weld her up. All right, so now that the beam is welded in, I feel much more comfortable with that actually. It's pretty good. I probably won't put the trim pieces on or anything until I get that whole area sanded. So, and then primed and come up with a solution as to what to do out there. But I think I'm probably just gonna prime, go to maybe a fleet white, and then wrap it the same way we did the back. But now that this is in, I think we can turn our attention to the passenger side. This one is a little bit more challenging, and I'll show you why when we get there, but it's mostly because of these braces that hold up this beam down the side. So unlike the one on this side, the beam goes down the entire length. This one gets cut for the door right there. So it's got a brace that goes back to the frame and triangulates it off. The problem is that I think the perimeter frame connector, the 2-foot piece from the frame it stretches out, is sagging. So this side here, the front side of the door frame, is actually pushing out a little bit. So when I get this one off, I'll have to maybe see if I can jack it up or torque it back or put a tie down between that side and that frame up there and maybe pull it back or something. I don't know yet. Plus, if I move, the other thing is if I want to move all this inner structure here, what I didn't realize is that it's connected to the frame, it's connected to this beam, and I was like, what's all this crazy truss work? But I think it's all of this is holding that beam up in place as well. So if I want to move this wall back, I need to support that, you know, that one, the one on the other side of the door frame, I need to support it a little bit better. So yeah, I got a lot of head scratching, but I don't know what to do till I get there. So let's remove all this crap, cut the floor out, and we'll have a look at it. Pretty much the same thing as on the other side there. You can see the rot down that frame rail as well. So that outrigger looks good. This gas tank, I'm assuming it's probably the same thing. And I think somewhere in this connector there's got to be some sort of diverter valve to switch between the two tanks. And over here, what's going on here? So there's no support from this outrigger to this beam here, to this vertical post here. So I think to pull this, beam back in, I'm going to connect this vertical post to the new outer beam when I get it in place and push that back up. Maybe jack it up or something. So, all right, let's see if we can get this tank out now. All right, so it definitely looks like this outrigger is actually rusted on the bottom. So that's probably why it started to sag. And through the floor connection, let me drag it down here. There, we can see that. So there's a steel bar running down on the other side of that wood post there, and I guess it gets transferred through the floor, through this piece of hardwood here, down into this piece, which down into that 2x4, which is non-existent, and this outrigger here is toast. So I think it's yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to remove that somehow. Hopefully when I take this part out, when I take this vertical part out or disconnect it, it doesn't drop any further, because this edge on the wall here, let me show you. See what's going on here. So this piece here is starting to separate, so it's pushing outwards. And for some reason this piece here, the more I do with the floor, this piece is getting pushed out more to the side. So it's starting to squirt out the side now, I guess. So maybe what I'll do is like I said, I'll put the, too much. There we go. Now I'll put a tie down between this side and the upper corner there and just pull that back, take some weight off it while I take this section of the floor out. So, I don't know. Let's see if that's gonna work. All right, let's see if this is gonna work. Set you up there. You can actually see firsthand if it's moving. Oh, I think the inner cage in here is moving. Oh yeah, much better. I think that totally moved it a little bit there. Pretty close. I think I'm gonna need a little more power. There's just not enough oomph in that tie down wanker cranker. It's already like a piano string right now. I have it hooked to the frame on the other side there. So let me get maybe a come along or something a little more whammy jammy. Well, I went out and got the level. Check this out. So I put it flat against this side here. Look at the offset over there. So I'm not sure if that's supposed to be dead straight or not, but that would explain why that corner there looks considerably different from that one there. So like I said, I'll get something a little more pulling power on that connection there. I wonder if I should actually disconnect that bolt and see if I can pull it in, because right now I'm probably trying to lift that whole frame section up as well. So yeah, disconnect that bolt, or at least slacken it off and see if that actually see if it lifts that whole assembly back easier and pull that in. Yeah, that's an easy fix. Let's try that now. Whoa. I think I just snapped that bolt out. Oh. That's the best it's ever looked, but as you may have heard, that one there let go, that bolt that's holding that that wall in place. I don't want to give her too much more. I have to find another anchor point now. But I think that's, I'm not even sure if that's the best it's ever looked, but there's definitely a lot of tension on that. All right, so I had some time to think about this over lunch. Came out here and I sat down and looked at this, and I was able to determine this, or able to notice this. So you see this line here is nice and straight, but the wood here and the foam has been crushed. So I think just over time with that bolt and all that weight riding on this has just been compacted. So I definitely should transfer this down to the 2x4 when the time comes. But that is my go-to. So I got to get that back up to at least that, which is about just under a quarter inch, maybe 200 thou, maybe a quarter inch, somewhere in there. So how to get it there is the next question though. But I know this tie down, or this wanker cranker come along isn't going to work here, so because it started pulling that bolt out of the frame down there. So I think what I'm going to do is, you ever seen that guy on Instagram, whoever did that used a spare wheel hooked around a tree stump over top of the spare wheel and hooked it to his truck and pulled it out? I think I'm going to try that. So I've got this tie down hooked to the frame here. I'm going to bring a spare wheel in here and actually over top of the spare wheel and back into that post there and see if that'll work. Who knows? What's going to break first? Tire seems pretty stable. Well, I hear things creaking. Not moving yet. Nothing's moving yet. bring that up a little bit higher, but something's got to be moving. It's maybe moved an eighth down there, not a whole heck of a lot. I think I still need more power on this. I'll try it, but I'll just readjust this and pull it up here a little bit maybe. I don't think I can get any more cranks out of that. It's pretty tight. Oh. Alright, it's definitely the tire moving, squishing down. You know what I could do is go get the bulldozer from the farm and just push it there. It probably doesn't matter, it's just that the door isn't going to line up, because I got like a ½ an inch gap on this side. I'm not giving up yet. I don't know how to approach this. I need more power to push this thing in. All right, I think I'm going to think on this one for tonight. Get my best answers when I'm sleeping, apparently. Wife's cutting the lawn. Nice of her to cut the lawn and let me work on the RV. I appreciate that. Alright, so I figured out this problem. It actually came to me in a dream, if you can believe it or not. Woke up from a cold sweat. I got it! Anyway, as you know, we cut this bolt off, nothing changed, but it was this bolt here that was hanging me up. This bolt, I think, had moved over the years and was pushing out. So once I got rid of it, this wall's actually moving quite free now. So I've got a couple tie downs on here, and we're just going to pull this back. You can see with the level across the ways here, if I put that in nice and tight along there, you can see I've got a pretty good gap on this side. So now I think there's nothing holding this wall back from moving and pulling back into place. So I'll put you on the pedestal. Let's see if we can see if you can witness the move here. All right, here we go. I don't even think it's going to take that much to move it, honestly. It's just sort of foam and a wall. Oh yeah, well I can hear it creaking. Ooh. That was a big move. It sounded like, I don't know. Oh, wow, that was actually pretty easy. Check this out. So now that's actually almost tight right up against that. That was actually really easy, man. To think how much we were reefing on that thing using the tire. This is pretty easy now. All right, so good. So these panels are now aligned. The door will close properly. I have no idea how this thing here is going to come off, but I think once I undo these hinges, maybe I can pull this whole door frame off and clean that out and shove it back on there, because this gap shouldn't be here. You see the green paint underneath there. So undo those screws, pull this whole frame out. I don't know how it's joined up there in the corner yet, but we'll get that off, clean it out, put it back on, screw it in, so those will be flush. All right, so what's the next order of operations? Right now this thing is tight like piano wire. Do I leave this strap in here, cut this whole bar out, put the new one in, and then put a support underneath all the way back up to here to hold it, and then redo my anchor down here, cut the floor out? Or do I just maybe weld a bar from here over to there, and that'll hold this thing where it needs to be for now? Well, I can't walk over this all the time. I guess I could go, you know, under it every time, but that's sort of a pain. Well, it's going to be the same thing if I do it with a metal bar. All right, I'm dragging the welder out here anyway, so I'll leave the strap in here for now. Let's sawzall all that crap out, get rid of this, get rid of the old floor supports, and we'll weld that new 2x4 in place. Tomorrow. I don't want to do it tonight. I'm beat.
When was I here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you even see the interior of this place?
3 weeks.
I think the floor was still in then, wasn't it?
And this thing?
Yeah.
You've been working on it, right?
Non-stop.
Who's painting?
Me.
Holy fuck, you're a painter too?
Yeah, that's what I said too.
Oh fuck. Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I like that little thing with the flames on it. What's that?
What thing? Oh, these are, well, I happen to have an extra one. I got these from a company called Speed Cult once upon a time.
Yeah?
They're, I don't know, like toilet paper holders or something, you want one?
Yeah, fucking cool.
They're clear coated and everything.
Yeah.
Hanging up the shop.
No, you do. You put a fucking candle here.
I usually just put my coffee in it, but you can do that too if you want to have some weird sort of seance.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's where the fucking battery goes, right under the step.
Yeah.
Good hideaway.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not thinking of, I'm thinking about relocating it somewhere else, but just so I don't have to worry about, you know,
Fuck, you
having
really
cupboards.
gutted it.
Yep.
You putting that tilt wheel in there? The tilt collar?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the next plan. Get the, you see with the new edging versus the old?
Oh, yeah.
What's left of the old one here?
Oh, fuck, yeah. Fuck, this thing was in rough shape, eh?
Yeah, not too bad. If it was wood, it'd be a lot worse, right?
Yeah. How come it's that color, that metal?
The black?
Yeah.
Well, that's just it. It faded in the sun. Got cold and it faded to this white color. You see the metal that we have out there?
Yeah, I was looking at it. I thought you coated it or something.
No, it's epoxy. It's black epoxy primer, but it's not color fast. The sun just fades it like crazy. I don't know what it is.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Look at the old fucking tires. The old bias ply, aren't they, Dad? Look like fucking old bias ply.
All right, so it was a late night last night, but I got lots of stuff done here until darkness. I got all that, the old one cut out and the new one mocked up in place and the new plastic in there as well. So I'm excited to get this welded in. This whole step had rotted and I couldn't extend the step out, so I just cut it completely off the frame. And like I said, this cross member here was rotten, so I just chopped it off for now. I'll put a new one in, which is already painted, and then I'll think about putting the step back in. The original step's kind of cool, so I don't think there's any reason to not reuse it. This whole side of the coach was in really bad shape. It looks like it had taken impact there on the side, was pushed into a V, but now with the new bar in there, it's pretty much dead straight again. So I just have everything clamped in place, getting ready to weld it. Incidentally, I also pulled this thing off last night, the old doorpost. Oop, got it upside down. The doorpost frame there. And yeah, so it looks like it's sort of sealed in to the foam. You see it's got a lipped sort of this edge there that's cast into the foam somehow, and it was also welded on the top. So the door frame was one piece, and I kind of broke it out, honestly, because you can see what I did here with this trimming. I see the size of that green paint there. It's like a 1/4 inch, just over a 1/4 inch. But the problem is, you know, on the bottom it was flaring out a little bit. It was past the door frame edge, so I had to sand it back. But this had somehow extended this way a little bit, so the only way to fix it was to take it completely off. I sanded this back, and now I can fit this piece in nice, of course, but there's nothing to retain it back in there now. So what I've done is, even with where the hinge used to mount, I welded some tabs to the back of it, so now when I screw the upper door hinge in, I've got a little more material there. So I think I'm going to urethane this back in. I'm just going to lay gobs of urethane in there, put that piece back on, and then when it dries, I'll probably just take the TIG and weld it there. The top one probably won't move because it's locked into that 45-degree chamfer there. So yeah, hopefully that works. Anyway, it's just holding the door on. It better work. Anyway, let's get this lower bar welded in place, and then I can start adding some cross members. All right, so I'm pretty stoked that this beam is now welded in all the way down. It's now part of the coach, and which makes the coach that much stronger. And I was able to take the jacks out, and it looks straighter now too, now that that bar is straight and it's being pulled up against it. So happy about that. Moving forward, I think it's time to replace this cross member. I think I'm just going to put it back in the exact same spot. Cut it off from the frame, weld it over, weld it into the 2x4. I don't think there's, well, these battery trays are going to go for sure. The batteries I want to use in here are much bigger, and I mean, what's the sense in trying to save these anyway? They're rotten, right? So who cares? Cut those out, get some new trays. This bar I'll leave in because that's the back mount to the stairs, and the front edge of the bracket for the stairs welds to this one here. The beam mount though, however, see the way it was bolted to the floor before? I think I'm just going to extend it right down to the new perimeter frame and re-angle that one and extend it down to the actual frame. But here's my dilemma, is I'm not sure if I should bolt it in or weld it in. Really, at what time am I ever going to need to remove that, right? So let's just weld it to the floor and weld it to the frame. And then it's part of the coach, right? As a coach moves, that's going to move. I mean, not that it didn't before, right? So hopefully I won't come back and kick myself for welding this thing in, but I don't want it to move. I just want it to be part of the coach, so let's just weld it in. All right, so before we move on to the rebuilding the seat mounts up there, let's get rid of this tie down. I'm tired of stepping over this thing. The only reason I still have it here is because it's holding up the wall section, and I'm kind of worried about actually popping the tie down. But if it does move out too much, I think what I'll do is I'll just pull the screen out here, wrap a band around it, and tie it back to the other wall there and pull the wall back. It actually moves pretty easy without this bracket bolted down. So, but let's remove this bracket because I want to rebuild it and weld it to the new 2x4 and bring it over to the frame. So let's see what happens when I release the Kraken. Please don't move too much. It's supported in the bottom, so I don't think it's going to drop. I'm more worried about just falling out. Oh. That's pretty wiggly. At least it's staying there. making all sorts of unnatural noises. Just don't fall, baby, don't fall. All right, let's get this unbolted. You can see here that it's got, what are those, 3/8? 1, 2, 3 3/8 bolts holding this triangle bracket to the beam. So let's get those out. All right, so interestingly enough, there was just these like self-tapper fine thread bolts that held this bracket to the beam there, but on the passenger or the rear of the coach, see on the bracket, it's got these through bolts, and it's got this big aluminum plate. It looks kind of factory, although it's busted here. I mean, the age is kind of right. So, and somebody would have had to completely disassemble it to put those through bolts in, and there's no way they could have put those like this self-tapper style in this way. So I kind of like these through bolts. There's a little more securement factor than just these with these self-tappers in here. So I think I'll maybe change this plate a little bit bigger and then put some through bolts in there myself. I'll see if I can get some. I have to replace this one anyway. This looks like 1/4 inch fine thread stuff, carriage style bolt. Maybe I can find some stainless ones, and then I'll do the same thing on here. Boom, boom, and the same sort of spacing. Yeah. All right. Let's make some brackets. All right, so I got this bracket in here, and I just replicated the bolt spacing on this side, and I just threw some bolts in there temporary. I'm still looking for some stainless carriage bolts. Having said that, I just remembered that carriage bolts have a square hole to go through there, so somehow I'm gonna have to file those round holes to square to get the carriage bolts to sit flat in there. Not unless somebody has made a square drill bit. I think that was an April Fool's joke one day. I'll have to look for that. Anyway, so yeah, replicated the bracket on this side to look like this one, and I've gone ahead and made up all the triangle pieces that'll weld to the frame. So let's get that in. So all the bracketry is in and welded to the frame. So what I tried to do with the tie down here was put a little bit of preload in it. So I gave it a couple more cranks, pulling the wall back in even further, assuming that when I let go of it, it's probably gonna pop back a little bit and put it under tension. So here we go. All right, that's off. Now let's see where she lays. So pretty, well, how about that? It actually stayed in. I preloaded by like 1 click, and it stayed in exactly 1 click. Oh well. It's preloaded for you know, bumps and stuff down the road. All right, so now that wall is back being supported, push that in, got that welded up, so that door frame is super solid again in there. And then I went ahead and did this side as well, and then changed those out to the stainless ones finally. I'm gonna get some CLR on there, I think, and get rid of that rust. And then I did the one on that side as well, and I got rid of all that midship structure that was in there. So that is a lot cleaner. I did carry these up though. The original one wasn't, the original top beam wasn't supported by all this structure, so I wanted something to tie whatever paneling we have into. So I just put this up there to hold the beam and put some wood behind it, and did the same on this side now. So that is good, which I also think originally I was gonna, for the original air conditioner mount was back here. I think I'm gonna move it to this one, just because both these ribs are closer to this support. So I don't, still sort of thinking I should put a brace between here and here to pick this up, but I don't think that's required because, you know, we got this giant beam here. So I think the AC will now go there. So I'll gotta build a box in there yet to do that, but I don't want to do that because the cold weather is coming. Winter is coming, as they say up here. So I need to get this sealed up. And we're pretty close. Yesterday I got the seat support and front front floor braces. There you go. Front for those things. I got those things installed. So now I have an edge for the floor to sit on there, and obviously to hold the seats. So I think moving forward, I need to build some floor supports on the outside here that attach to the 2x4 that come up to pick up the height of the floor here. So, oh yeah, check this out. I think I'm going to remove the battery box. So after I cut the battery box out, I was like, I kind of like having this big wide step here. So the problem is, where do I put the batteries if I don't have them there? And I was like, well, how about where the generator was, which is right over here. So that way it's still just as close to the engine. But I think I can build a box here. So I'll probably end up building a box that sits on top of these 2x4s here, and then use this door to slide the batteries in. And then, you know, I can still put the kitchen on top of it when the time comes. I like that idea, because the problem is that's a pretty small door. Trying to get both my arms in there to hook up batteries and stuff might be a bit of a challenge. I don't know, TBD. Maybe I could just find a new door from a newer style RV and open that up, make it a little bit bigger or something. That might be the way to go. All right, TBD on that one. But for now, the batteries are going in this place. So, I guess we got to do more floor sections. Let's do some more time lapse, and we'll get all this perimeter frame in. And I got to really install the glass soon after that, because it's raining and I'm worried about snow now coming in. So I want to get this thing sealed up. Let's get her done. All right, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out this long. Sorry it took a long time, but that's just how long it took to repair the perimeter frame of the Chevallero here. It was pretty bad in the beginning when you saw that. But now I got a really solid RV. And in the next video, we actually go on to making the floors. We install some glass. We get the gas tanks in. We move a refrigerator in, and we eat some great tarts from the farm next door. So I'll leave a link to that one, or it'll be the next video in the ongoing saga of everything that is the Chevallero. Again, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, or tell me that I went too long in this video, or was just enough information so you can get the Cole's Notes version of how we're rebuilding the Chevallero. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next video, and thanks for watching. You know, wouldn't it be nice with the green screen technology if we could just go somewhere warm? Right now it's the middle of winter outside. Oof, I'm tired of snow. I hate it. Hate snow.